Great. All right, Michael, Mike. We're recording.
The satisfied young man.
Okay, we'll get started. We're a couple of minutes early, but oh, hey. Oh, yes. So you're adoring public all over the world.
Thank you very much. Rockin' Talkin' IPMS London, bringing you live all the jive.
You gotta click on the oh, that's my screen. Yeah. So welcome to our second clandestine meeting. We were able to rebook BCOC from September on for the rest of the year. Pending a better location, we're just going to go back to there. We've got it. For those who weren't at the last meeting, the college requires insurance, and the insurance rates for a meeting like this is stupid. It's pretty close to $100 a meeting just on insurance costs per meeting, and no.
Nobody getting an accident.
Yeah, no trips and falls. Yeah. Anyone with incontinence, just go out in the hall, George, and we'll be okay. So,
We don't know that.
yeah. So I'm still trying to book BCOC for August. Our regular club night is. I don't want to tempt fate and do a third clandestine meeting, but we'll see how tonight goes. You may notice I've shifted the room every meeting so that they can't figure where we are because I'm married. So being well, that and my admin books it, not me. So it's perfect. Being married, you learn things, right? So welcome to our club meeting. It's July. It's a hot one. I apologize if it's warm in the room. The college just tried to save money by reducing it because it's pretty light in the month of July for people, but at least we're not the cheap bastards. So what's that? Or we pay more tax. So one takeaway from last month's meeting, just so we know, when we do our show table and we do our show and tell, we're going to try to limit folks to the amount of time they talk about their priceless works of art, because unfortunately, poor Ron got rushed at the end, and we didn't have enough time for that. So we'll just try to make sure that we keep our show and tell to a reasonable length. Yeah. So we're gonna put forward a budget request for that big hook to pull people off when they're talking for too long. Oh yeah,
I got plans.
you got ideas? Okay, I could start singing, but then we'd have no club members. Yeah, we could. So yeah, so I mean, we'll be at BCOC from September to December. So that's back to our usual arrangements. And I'll see about August. I'll have something in the next week. It might still be here again. We'll figure out what's going on. I like this room. You've got monitors, so it's easy to kind of see what we got going on. Pretty fancy schmancy. We're 2 months, almost 2 months and a week away from our show. So we brought the heavenly coiffed and blown out Mr. Dawson here, just for our show chair for any words of inspiration or updates.
No, it's going good. We're getting lots of sponsors. They're starting to roll in now, according to our fearless leader. We've got 48. Of course, Stuart thinks it's 49. I like 49 better. Tables. Still waiting for checks for 2 of the vendors. But we've got almost $2,300 so far in vendor payments tables. We'll be able to hopefully pay the bills. So keep talking it up with people. If you're here and you want a table, you're still a few left. So oh, he's got his hand up. He wants a table. Yes, I was going to actually call you guys. Okay, I will put it in and send you an Instagram through the club website. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I think I did send him an email, but I'll send him another one. Just, yeah. So, other than that, that's about it. It's going pretty good, actually, all things considered. So we sort of kind of do, but I also have a backup going along, just make sure things are good. I'm looking at Clark Road Secondary School.
We thought it was, I'll explain it.
Yeah.
I'll let go. Okay,
But
so, yeah, the school told us we would be locked down, and then they said, oh, no, you won't be. It's all got to do with timetabling for the semester. So I got my timetable this week and it was wrong, so it has to be fixed. The deadline is July 31st. So now I'm hoping we'll know first week of August now. The hard deadline is August 22nd. That's when timetables have to be posted. That's the challenge for the college booking it. So definitely for our next show, if we get the college, that's great. We'll see how it goes. But then I think, you know, there's a lot of stress on the committee's part. We're trying to figure out, you know, do we, don't we? Because we'd like to have a location secured before we get anything else done. Yeah, we will know for sure in the next couple of weeks, but it's still not a done deal, which is why Bill's always got a backup plan ready for us to pull the trigger if we need to. Beyond that, yeah, sponsorships. If anyone is interested in sponsoring a category, let me know. They are starting to roll in, but it's been a little bit bleak. I've surprisingly, a lot of our former sponsors are gone. We lost quite a few businesses since the last show in 2018. I've reached out to a whole new slew, including people we don't normally, that's my thing, probably, yeah. Normally people we don't associate with. My email's not on. There we go. So, as an individual, if anyone's interested in sponsoring a category, the information's up on our site. I think it's funny because I posted on my personal Facebook page and on the club page, and usually I get lots of likes, but all of a sudden I put, hey, we could use some money for sponsorships, and like dead silence. Like you can just hear crickets, right? I know the economy's been a bit rough. The good news is I created a new category called corporate sponsors, and Windsor Hobby's in. So they just sponsored us for $250 plus models for the raffle table, which was overwhelming. I reached out to parties we don't normally. I reached out to Amps USA. They're sponsoring. I actually sent out to a few new online companies. We'll see what's going on with them. And then I've started to approach the podcast. Actually, one US podcast is sending us a check, and Model Insanity. Yeah, Model Insanity podcast is what's, yes. Yeah. Yeah, I wrote to them. Yeah, they already sponsored us. They were one of the first. They're on the sponsor page right now. Hobby Center. They've been, everyone's been emailed. Like I've contacted everyone. If they don't have, if their store is a Facebook page, I have no shame, right? I told you I'm married, so I have no pride. I will use any means possible. I'm very used to humbly beseeching, please, please, I will, you know, whatever you need, making deals and stuff. So, but I mean, we have a lot of citizens or ordinary folks that like to sponsor. So, yeah. Yes, I have. All the ones that exist, and I even sent some to a few chapters that don't exist anymore, and a couple new ones. So we lost quite a few over COVID, especially out west, but everyone's been contacted. IPMS Toronto and Ottawa have already sponsored. They're up on our wall of fame. Hobby Sense already sponsored, Windsor Hobbies, Barrel Store. And then actually a couple of my friends are going to sponsor. They contacted me, like my personal friends said, yeah, I'll throw in a sponsorship. So things are rolling in. Pardon? Everyone's been contacted. Yeah. It's a matter of them reading their emails. I'm going to re-email them all next week. Hey, it's Frank. Remember me? Might send them a headshot of someone else and see if that works. Something semi-attractive. So we'll see how it goes. So yeah, so that's the show news. I mean, we're getting there. It's definitely a changed world. I got some buddies in the States who are still talking. I know Stuart went down to in Missouri. There was another show. which normally has, 50 kids show up, 50 displays, and they doubled for this year. It's only 100 models, but for them, that's twice the show they've ever had. So shows are doing well, but even in the States, they're having challenges with with sponsorships, and the insurance is a big one. Venue costs have gone up like a stupid amount, but insurance is now, Guertin, that was their biggest complaint. They said they were worried about a show based on like the city just wanted way too much. So they didn't even have a raffle table, right? Because the city says no gambling. Yep. So but we don't tell them.
No, that- up in Embro. And I didn't quite catch the particulars, but that's how they got around it. Apparently, you got a ribbon. As long as you get something, and then like there's a way around. Everyone's a winner, and you also happen to sign up for this. And oh, yeah, I got to get the details. I've heard about it before. I just have to get the.
You want a free ticket?
Well, no, that's what it was. You got this little ribbon.
So we're sneaky enough, we'll figure something out. So, but otherwise it is going well. I mean, 50 vendor tables pretty near, well, done,
Yeah.
is impressive for our show. I don't know how many we had in our last one, but 61. So
yeah, one no. Yeah, so we had in this plan. We had an option. We had an option for 50 vendor tables, but we can add another 28 in 2 blocks. So I'm just gonna share the screen here. Of course, I didn't bring my mouse, but that would have made sense.
yeah, if it's too bright up here, right?
I had last flyer.
Okay,
I
so
got probably
See, they're making money because they're selling, right? So vendors are good.
Yeah.
It's people trying to give us money is becoming a bit of a challenge. So
So this is the room on the upper right is where the registration is sitting behind right now. Contest area, there's more tables. We had 72, we have 80 something now. And then the vendors start down the other end. So we've got 1, 2, all of these here. Okay, and then we have some optional ones. So we have another block there of optional, that's 20. And we have another block up the side there. So what my goal this weekend is, I'm going to make a larger printout of this, label, number all the tables, pass it along to our vendor coordinator, and he will start assigning. Like I know, for example, Mr. Ed has these 3. He's already asked for those. So
being a club member, he got
he's
the
a club
tables he
member.
wanted.
Yep,
regardless,
so he's
so,
a happy
yeah,
camper.
right.
And then we
Membership has
can,
its reward.
yep, and then we'll start assigning, and if we have to, we'll just start, doing more. We have the make and take there, seating for people. Yeah, so I think we'll be okay.
So that's moving along, and yeah, we'll send out any emails if we've got more stuff that we need to discuss. So that's it for show news for us right now. Carrie, I think you're done at the end of July. Any news from National, sir? Well, that takes care of
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Huzzah. Say December. Maybe we'll have some pizza just for you. All right. That's about it. I wanted to factor in some extra time because well, Dave had sleep, so his display might be a little bit better than it was. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, it's true. So we don't, Bill's not here. We don't have our treasurer, so or our secretary. Basically, the 2 reliable guys showed up from your executive. So there's no draw today. We'll just go and do our show and tell table. We'll take a little break for Dave, any last minute setups. If anyone is interested, the Blappy Enterprises merch table is open for business. Please consult with Mr. Guertin for prices, availability, and custom jobs moving forward. But Anything else? RSPs, nothing? Okay. So, so we'll do the round table. So here, I'll keep it short. We'll start at my end. So my stuff's first. Yeah, no problem. So I brought in 3 kits. The first thing I did was a Astra Militarum Basilisk for my son. So it's a Warhammer 40K piece of artillery. My son bought this giant box called the Cadmium Infantry from the Astra Militarum. Anyway, he spent $300 and his mother had a stroke. But he realized when he was battling his buddy, he didn't have enough points for artillery. So he's like, Dad, I need some artillery. Of course, so far be it from Dad not to drive in from St. Thomas and hit every single store to find him artillery. So he picked that up, and then I painted it for him. The figure in the front is still black because that's his job. I'm making him paint. He's doing slap chop for his figures, but he's starting to customize. So it's a gateway drug, right? I gave him a little bit of weed, and I'm going to get him into the modeling cocaine later. So, so anyway, I did this one for him. I did it in EK paints. It's a 2-tone blue on blue. That's the color for his military. It's a 40K kit. It's basically, you know, foolproof. Giant gates, lots of sanding. Took about 2 hours to put together. The worst part was the barrels and halves. That was like 3 hours of sanding to make it look seamless. So that came out nice. And then I just black based it. I put on some blue tack for the black striping, and then did it in Prussian blue and a French light blue. And it looks nice. So he's happy. That's all that matters. And he kicked his buddy's butt. So, and then he bought some sort of walker thing. So I got to build that for him too. Yeah. Next to that is my second of my Flyhawk kits. So it's my little Panzer II looks. So I'm a big fan of these. You know, there's the Astra Militarum Basilisk. Yeah, I like it. AK paints are awesome. Yes. So, and so is Mr. Surfacer. So that's my, what's that? Yeah. 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 It was a breaking up the color. Exactly. The Empire does not care. The Astra Militarum says, yeah, when 20,000 people have to die every day to keep the Emperor alive, it doesn't matter, right? So this is a Flyhawk look. So if anyone likes 172nd Flyhawk, I mean, they make the boats, everyone knows that, but these tanks are just absolutely awesome sauce. I'm very proud of this one because it's got some jerry cans on the back, and I soldered the frame. So that was my first time soldering 172nd scale photo etch, and it was cool and lots of fun, and it turned out really well. So I was pretty happy to do that for the first time. And no, I haven't gone cross-eyed, but it was something I saw in a video. So I got a solder set for Christmas, and I played once or twice, but I like it a lot better than gluing, and it just ends up looking much better. So I'm enjoying that aspect of it, and that's a pretty small scale to work in. I don't want to make it a habit. And then I picked that up at Torcan, and then at Torcan, some guy behind Blap had like lots of stuff cheap, so I bought a couple of Stugs off him for $10, and that's basically one weekend. I just said, well, let's see what I can do. I wanted to practice modulation on gray tanks, so it's a Stug C/D kit and a Stug E, so they're both kind of early war. I painted them both in the standard gray, and I didn't know what to do with them, so I was watching Looney Tunes, and it hit me with the sheepdog and the coyote there, Ralph, and I can't remember the other, Fred. Hey, Sam and Ralph. So I called it shift change Stug style, basically just, you know, and so I made one dirtier than the other just to show he was coming off shift. The other one was going on duty. So they're piddly ass dragon kits. They're okay. Missing detail after having done a Flyhawk. Rubber tracks, which turned out, according to Cam, I did a good job. So thank Cam for rubber. And I like doing this stuff. It's a fun, easy little, you know, I spray painted the base from the Michaels for a couple bucks, black, on a piece of sandpaper, I got a rope. So good to go on the cheap. Yeah. The next one is Mr. Hill.
The 148 scale Magna Models resin Supermarine Attacker. The sort of a unique thing about it, it's in Pakistani Air Force markings. They flew a few of them. They weren't too pleased with them. Neither was the FAA, but that's beside the point. It was a lovely learning experience for both Air Forces. It's weathered down as it may have been, suffering from the hot Pakistani sun, flat and dirty on the upper side and satin clean on the underside. And then the next one is going to be finished in the early. It's a Airfix 172nd Chipmunk, gifted to me by Tim, who's back there somewhere. Hi, Tim. Going to be under markings that were also gifted to me by Above and Below Graphics and the early prototype scheme. That's why she's nice and chromy. I don't think the real finish was chromy, but the obviously polished the aluminum and it certainly looked chrome. And that's it.
I just got this in the mail today. You can always get P-40Es everywhere, but to get a P-40D, there was a Canadian pilot flew for 112 Squadron. Oh, bugger, why can't I remember his name? He ended up running, I think it was 417 Squadron, flying a Spitfire. Oh, bugger, why can't I'm just getting old. Anyways, it's basically their P-40E kit with a couple a little 3D printed piece to account for 2 guns per wing instead of 6 or 3 per wing, and then a scribing template to rescribe the upper and lower wing, and then you just got 1 gun off, do whatever. It's all well done. And funny thing is that there's a little plastic bag that may come up next. No, yeah. I bought a kit at Torcan, the Special Hobby Super Corsair, and the yellowed canopies came with it. I have a history of dealing with the claims department at Special Hobby. If they are like literally the best. If you have a kit that's missing something or it's broken, they'll get it to you right away. And they'll actually give it to you if you buy a kit. And it doesn't matter how much you spend on something. Anyways, they didn't have any canopies, but they said they had the tooling, and they back formed me 4 new ones, sent it in the mail with the kit. So, and it was like, I think all in shipped to my door was about $36, $37, something like that. So it would have cost me $10, well, almost $15 just for the canopies. So. And then if that one there, I got that at Torcan. It is truly an awful kit. But yeah. And and the plastic's awful, but I got that for $10 with back form canopies, which are yellowed, a photo etch kit to do the cockpit, and literally there is no cockpit. There's just 3 little blobs of plastic to represent the 3 people that are in it. So you have to cut all that away. If you look into it, you'll see where I've got so far. I'm hoping by maybe another week to have the cockpit done. I've got the landing gear done. But yeah, it's a whole lot of fun. These, Adam, I can understand why you like these old. Yeah.
Yeah, I love Frost, you know,
Yeah.
I was, yeah. But the thing is, that's a super old guy.
Oh, it's like
Richard.
early 60s.
I didn't
Yeah.
realize. So old.
Yeah. Yeah, it was awful. Yeah. But I know. That's why I like these old kits. You spend $30 on aftermarket stuff to juice it up. But yeah. Yeah, lipstick on the pig. Anyways, yeah, that's pardon? I have no idea. I think it's going to be in our fleet air arm. So. Who's next? You here?
Make me go all the way across. Yeah. I can't. Hold on.
Air conditioning, no air conditioning really gets to you. Okay, this is obviously a work in progress. It's in 172 scale foam board, 3-story Russian house with shops on the main floor. I'm building this one for a specific battlefield that's coming up for my wargaming table. And this is going to be this is the biggest building that I've attempted so far. I'm just sort of getting bigger and bigger as I go. Each floor is divided into rooms. There is battle damage on what is it going to be? The west side, or no, the east side. There are some holes in each floor notched out for weapons positions. The staircases from the main floor to the second floor are going to be barricaded with barbed wires and booby traps. And then the only access to the second floor is going to be on the back staircase, which you can see a little door there on the sidewall. I had one sheet of brick for the one side of the house, and I went down to Brofdale to see if Richard had any more, and he didn't have any more. He's like, well, you know, usually I get this stuff for the students, so I won't get any until the fall. And I'm, well, what do you have? So he's got three sheets of stone. And I'm like, well, I'll do stone one side, brick the other, because I had already glued the stone or the brick side on. And I'm like, well, let's do that. And nobody's going to notice at 100 miles an hour. So yeah, this is what it is. It's got photo or 3D printed windows from our friend Ron in it, and they work excellent for installation. A couple of them have a small effect on it where I did like a really thick coat of Elmer's glue over the pane, and it kind of has an effect like it's, you know, winter, and that I just tried it to see if it would work, and I didn't, you know, really mean for this to be, this scenario is taking place in July, but so yeah, that's my house. Feel free to touch it if you want to. It's just foam board. It's super light. Take the floors off, check out the different floors and the layouts and that. I've got there's staircases that are under construction. There's one that's complete. And it's a really good view of how one of these things is put together. I use little pins for sewing to actually secure the walls in place, and then put a layer of glue around the seams so that that's set. And the interior walls don't have the layer of glue yet, but they're well secured by pins. So anyway, have a look.
I brought 2 Mustangs. Thing. Oh, I can go longer. Oh, outstanding. Oh, come on. 2 Mustangs tonight. The number 501 with the green striped tail, that's a Tamiya P51D. The decals are aftermarket, and they depict that plane being in Iwo Jima in the spring of '44. Pilot died in August, unfortunately. I built it pretty much out of the box. I had read online that the wings of a Mustang were puttied. Some of the panel seams were puttied at the factory and painted. So I filled several of the seams on the wings with putty, sanded and painted them with L-clad high-speed silver, which looks more like silver paint than a metal finish. The green striping I did just with masking over top of the L-clad. There was a lot of little pieces of tape used on that effort. And it's just, the rest of it's just out of the box. The second is an Academy kit, Mustang B. This is also using aftermarket decals depicting a plane with the name Impatient Virgin, flown by a number of pilots, and unfortunately crashed in '45 during a high-speed training exercise. It was discovered, the wreckage was discovered in the farmer's field in the UK in 2002. And 5 years later, it's been fully restored and is on exhibition at an aviation museum in Washington. Again, that other than the aftermarket decals, it's just out of the box. Both are using Alclad paints for the metal finishes and Tamiya for the flat coat finishes.
That would be me. This is Tamiya's Wildcat, which I have converted to an FM2. There's the collar tail, new engine, new cowl, new side pieces, 2 guns per wing instead of 3 wings per gun. It qualifies to be probably the longest resident in the Shelf of Doom. As Larry likes to say, I started this model in the Clinton administration. Larry had built the Wildcat back in the 90s, and I was inspired. I thought, well, I'll do an FM2. How different can it be? And then found out how different it could be. And my goal was to get this finished before next month because Edward's bringing out an all-new FM2 kit, 48 scale. So I was determined to have it done beforehand. All the markings are painted on there. The only decals are on the propeller blades. It was a challenge to build, but I'm kind of happy how it turned out. I did weathering with the 8K pencils. I did a lot of the streaking with them and some airbrush weathering as well, but mainly with the 8K pencil. And I'm liking them more and more, and the potential that they offer in some ways. So. Well, that's true. That's true. You know, we all at some point we have to show our shame that's hiding in the dark recesses. So I have an automobile that's even an older resident of the Shelf. So maybe that one will be the next one to be resurrected. That's right. Yes. Till then, it's box purgatory. There you go. No music. Tim? Here we go, Tim.
That's just F16A plus from Hasegawa, 72nd scale. The kit is roughly 1980s, 85 or something. But again, it's from the Shelf of Doom. But I thought I'd better finish it. It's super scale boarding ladder and cockpit details. I just, the Montana Air National Guard, I just love the tail markings, and that's why it still reminds me of a George O'Keeffe painting. That's it.
Oh, no, wait.
So I actually brought these in because I went to G-Fest in Chicago this past weekend, and I didn't want to leave G-Fest without buying something. I thought it was a waste to. G-Fest is Godzilla Fest or Gamera, if you must maybe allocate that. This particular monster is named Gamera or Gigan, excuse me. It's appeared in several movies stemming back to I think its earliest appearance was in 1972. What we're seeing is a picture of a Wave model kit that I purchased back in 2001. I got it because it was the only version of this monster that was available in 30 centimeters. I actually built and painted this in Japan when I lived there and transported it back home. It's in really rough shape. Some of the fins on the back are warping to the point where they're pulling away from the model. So I decided when I was at G-Fest, when I saw a 30 centimeter resin version of the same 1972 Gigan, way more accurate, much more detail. Thought I would spend the money to get it. And I just thought I would come and show it as work in progress. And I'm looking forward to building it and having it on my shelf.
Well, okay, so that's it. So, looking at median age, we'll take a little bio break for 15 minutes. Let Dave get set up.
Oh, I should point, I do want to add one more.
Yeah.
thing. We had an interview with the president of IPMS. We actually just had an interview coming out this weekend of the first prize, but great interview. He said he was going to send me something. So he sent a couple of medallions they're going to have at San Marcos this year. I don't know if anyone's going down to that this year from here. These are gorgeous. And then also him and his wife, they had taken a cruise in Europe and they went to Omaha Beach and he got a bag of stamps. And he actually, for the 4 hosts, he put 4 little vials. And this is actual sand from Omaha Beach. I was very, very touched about the gesture. So yeah, kind of neat. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Could be. Yeah. Send us the email address. See what we can do.
I'm spending online time with guys in the States, so that's why I went to AMPS and a couple of clubs in the US just to see some of the American podcasts, right? What's that? Yeah. So responsible, that's what we're getting sponsored from them. So no, yeah, but that, if even, yeah, like I know IPMS Ottawa had Harvey show up, Harvey Lowe come into one of their meetings for a demo virtually during COVID. I attended that one.
Yeah, there's still a good mix of a combination of in-person and virtual.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of clubs, especially in the States where you're thousands of miles, a lot of taking advantage of that. Good to see.
And lots of clubs are doing like our gray butts, right? The gray butts,
Build nights.
we have
Yep.
our build nights. I got 3 groups that are doing every night. I don't go every night. I have some
You will
other
like,
life,
you will like.
but I like to attend those. And then a few of the others, like the Blockworks guys, will have
Yep.
build nights, stuff like that. Or Black Rifle Works guys. Sorry.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just to mention, I read a file that was.
Weren't you warned about bringing anything else home?
Okay, my wife keeps wanting to get another pet. So anyway, all right.
You know when you get it. You know that's not.
Yeah, I know. My daughter almost showed up with a dog. So we'll just take 10 minutes, little break, and then we will have the world famous Blap, as you are now. There's at least 300 views, so giving us a demo. Well, thank you very much. I know. When I saw it, it was only 200. Because I got it right when it got posted. You want to mute this or?
I'm gonna mute for a few minutes, guys. Good to see you, Kevin, as well.
I didn't notice.
Oh, Karen.
Small issue I gotta bring up. I haven't got an email from you guys.
Do my photos?
I don't want that.
Sure you haven't turned on the camera?
It's not in there.
That's normally Jeff, but he's not here. Let me see what I can.
I think we're both 90.
You're all paid up, right?
Yeah.
Memberless, stay fun.
It's
People out there.
Just gotta find the right one. Right, this is Elwood.
Down there and did it. I mean, it could be made to be pretty much, it could be made decent, I made
That's nice.
AARN, AA. Rowan. Hang on, I got the one. Not in this. Obviously not. Well, I didn't hear the whole thing.
Just- Stuart, are you collecting fees for next year?
Not yet.
Okay.
I'll find it. Could you have a? Aaron. Aaron, when you get a second.
Yeah, we're working on that because of the law. Yeah. No. Well, it's a lot more. What I like thinking is rather than hire from. Blade. Like, if you're around. The first one that went on. And then go back and start. More. And then. But then, yeah, the reason they all. Yeah. And then. So Stuart.
Yeah. Yeah. We're gonna get started in a couple minutes, guys, so start making your way. Yep.
Remember how this goes.
Only got 28,000 people on the live stream. That's awesome. Actually, I think both Ed and Kevin left here.
No, Kevin's still there.
Kevin's still
I'm still here.
there? All right, that's good. Where'd Ed go? Is Ed still there?
Don't see him.
Ed fucked off.
Yep.
All right, take your seats, gentlemen. All right, I've enabled sharing, so you should be good.
You want to give me your microphone?
Oh, yeah, of course.
That's probably
Yeah, there you go.
Here. Then we're not having. There you go. Conflicting microphones here. Can people hear me online? They can hear me online. So,
Sorry, I had to unmute myself. Yes, I can hear you.
okay, perfect, perfect. See how this works.
Get it to do it for me.
you're good.
Okay.
You
Are we
just-
good?
you can just put
Flip
there.
them all around the room. That's pretty cool, actually. Yeah, I like that. So, all right. So, this is I was asked at Wonderfest to give a presentation on gloss finishes. So this is I'm going to do this again here. For you guys, I promised I would do it for the club, so I'll try and muddle through this. Maybe some of you people probably saw my tested video that I did. I got interviewed at Wonderfest about the gloss finish on my Falke here, so I got to talk to Norm at test. That was a
Line
lot
up
of
to the
fun.
Right for autograph.
So what's that?
Nice orderly line to the right for autograph.
That's right. Yeah, only $50 each. Is that what Bill Shatner? What's Bill Shatner charge? Probably $100. Yeah, I'll only charge half. So, anyways, so I'll just jump in here and talk about gloss finishes for scale models. So, one of the most important things for any finish on a model, not just gloss finishes, is having a good primer underneath your paint, of course, right? I remember years and years ago as a teenager trying to skip the primer coat, and it always led to disaster. Now there's all kinds of amazing primers out there and all kinds of different colors. As you see on the screen there, my favorite is really the stuff from Guertin, the Mr. Surfacers. They come in a variety of colors, and then Tamiya has rattle can primers. They got white and they got I think gray are the only two colors they have. But most of the Mr. Color stuff comes in rattle cans as well, if you prefer using rattle cans. I like using it. Well, sorry, yeah, it's Guertin or Mr. Hobby, or Guertin is the guys that make Mr. Surfacer, so Mr. Hobby. But the main company is Guertin that makes all the Mr. Hobby line of paints. So, no problem. Yes. Oh, they make a red oxide too, don't they? Yeah. Okay, all right. Oh, would be, yeah, yeah. So yeah, I've used red oxide a few times, but if there's lots of sanding going on, it gets very messy very quick, right? So, anyways, yeah. So this is good stuff. I prefer to airbrush myself, and use good thinners. Talking about thinners, I like to use lacquers, so all hail lacquers, right? That's our new king. So I threw him in there. This was a presentation I did in the US, so I get that for a laugh, right? So I prefer the lacquers. I always use this Mr. Color leveling thinner now that's been out. It works really, really well. There is one called a rapid thinner that's you're supposed to use for metallics. I've tried it a little bit. It seems to be good for metallics, but I've only done it once, so that's not a very good experiment. So, but the Mr. Color leveling thinner works really good. I've used it for all kinds of stuff. I used it for Model Master enamels, and it worked very well as well. So don't be afraid to try it on different things. I know some of the acrylics, it turns it into goo. So you probably don't want to put it in any kind of acrylic, but I know like even the Tamiya acrylics, they're like an acrylic lacquer. So there's an acrylic base, even in the Tamiya acrylics, so not a true acrylic. Like I think the Vallejo is a true water-based acrylic, whereas the Tamiya stuff is not. Even I think the the stuff that's out from Guertin now, the Aqueous, I think they're not a true acrylic either. I think there's a lacquer base or something, or a solvent base. Yeah, you can tell by the smell usually. Yeah, just give her a good whiff, and if your nose hair curls, it's probably not a true acrylic, right? So I don't recommend that though. So anyways, I like lacquers. I've been doing quite a bit of automotive stuff since the pandemic started. So I've got addicted to these zero paints. They're like an automotive, I think it's automotive paints, basically remodeled for the modeler. And they give you all these really, really wonderful like match colors. Like that's, the Gulf colors. They're like exact match to the Gulf colors. I've got a Ken Miles Ford GT40 that I did, and the Ken Miles GT40. Also, they give you a Ken Miles blue, which is slightly different blue than the Gulf color. Everybody thinks they're the same color. It's not, it's a different blue. So, and then for my clear coats, I've been using this Tamiya LP9 lacquer, and I've been thinning that about 60 to 70% with the Mr. Color leveling thinner. And I know some guys have told me that they take the final coat on their gloss, I'll take and spray just pure leveling thinner on the model to re-wet the entire surface to have it like get shinier. I haven't tried that yet. I'm gonna maybe try it on the model coming up, but I'm not sure if it makes a difference because I'm gonna be probably polishing anyways, because you're gonna have some bit of a piece of dust or an imperfection you're gonna want to smooth out. So the second you touch any part of your model with any kind of a sanding material, it's gonna change that spot. So you got to do the whole model, right? So, Mike. I have no idea. Like it might. I think orange peel generally comes from not having your paint thin enough, right? Because the more thin you, like I said, I do it about 70% thinner. So, and I do it with all my lacquer paints, and I do it with my primers and everything. And the leveling thinner, especially, it has some, probably some like paint retarders and stuff in there. So it takes a little bit longer for the paint to actually start to flash off. So it gives it time to, like it says, leveling, gives it time to level out, get rid of that orange peel, right? So that's the kind of thing there. And then I'll talk about tools a little bit. Again, there's these God hand sanding sponges, which I discovered a while back. I think it was a guy over the course of the pandemic, some guy in a video was using these. No, where did I get these? The first time I found these was Panda Hobbies at Torcan. It was the Torcan before the pandemic, and they had a booth there, and I ended up going to that Torcan, and I spent I kept going back to the booth and spending more and more money until I had like bags full of tools and stuff from the Panda Hobbies booth. It's where I got the nippers and everything. Yeah. So these God hand sponges are really good. I mean, there's micro mesh sanding cloths as well, which are these here, and they're like an old standby. And they're for automotive guys for doing their finishes, and they're really nice. But the sanding sponges with they have the foam backing on them, and they come in different thicknesses, right? So there's like a thicker one, there's a thinner one to get into like little fitter areas and stuff. These are amazing. The grit on these is really, really tough. You can wash it and reuse it. And I've washed it with soap and water to get any of the old like colored paint off. So I can go from, polishing something red to polishing something white and not, have contamination on my white. So the God hand sponges are really, they're amazing. Again, it's a whole new level of modeling tool, it seems like, coming out of Japan. And then, I always use an airbrush. I avoid rattle cans for the most part. There'll be the odd big thing I'll use. I'll use a rattle can for primer or something. But most of the fine modeling I do, I'm going to be spraying everything out of an airbrush. I've got a Grex and I've got an Iwata, and they're the top feed with the trigger action. I find now, my mother's legacy, as I've got some arthritis in my hands now, so a regular airbrush, I use it for 20 minutes, and I got to like pry it out of my hand. Whereas these are much nicer. The trigger action, I really like those, but that's a personal preference. I mean, any nice airbrush is going to do the job for you. To me, it has this thing called the model cleaning brush. It's an anti-static brush, and I think it's two different kinds of materials, like a nylon and something else in there. And I was watching one of these car model guys always doing these amazing finishes, and the last thing he'd do before he put paint on his model, he'd have one of these brushes and like flap it all over the model. And I'm like, what the hell is that thing the guy's using, right? And then in one of the videos, he mentioned that it was this anti-static brush. So I thought I should try and find one of those. And the next time I was at Hobby and Toy Central here in town, if you want any kind of Tamiya tools, that store is amazing because they got an entire wall of Tamiya tools. So I always go there for all my Tamiya tools. And they had one of these on the shelf, so I thought, well, I'm a sucker for a gimmick. I'll get one and I'll try it, right? Who doesn't love new tools? So I bought this thing and I used it on one of the car models I was doing. What do you know? But I think it probably reduces or eliminates all the static on the surface of the model before you paint it, so it's not attracting nearly as much fuzz, right? So I mean, it's a great tool. I think I've got it here in the box actually. Yeah, this is it here, right? And it comes with this little cover on there. And I always put it back in the cover just to keep extra crud from getting on it, right? And it's got another end here too that I've never used. There's this little tiny brush on here, but I've never actually used that for anything. So I always forget it's in there actually. But anyways, so that was worth every penny. And then for the polishing, I mean, when I'm doing the finish, I'm taking the God hand sponges and, I'm doing multiple levels from like maybe 4,000 all depending on how rough my finish might be or how many flaws there are in it. I'll go from like maybe the 4,000 up to the 8,000 polishing, like with wet sanding with those sponges. And then I'll go into the Tamiya polishing compounds. And they got the coarse, the fine, and the finish compound. And then they have this model wax as well. And the model wax, like I said in the video I did, every step of polishing you go through, the model gets shinier and shinier with the compounds. And it's really quite stunning. Then you put the wax on and it gets shinier again. Right. And so the first time I did this on a car model, it really kind of floored me. I like many people, I think the finish on car models is what scared me from building car models. Right. And I love competition vehicles mostly. So any kind of race car, I love to build it with the bright colors and the really cool liveries and all this kind of stuff. And so over the course of the pandemic, I watched a ton of guys do videos on doing finishes on cars. And so I just took all the ideas those guys had, mashed it into something to use for myself. That was maybe with a few shortcuts, but also with the tools I could buy locally, right? Because some of the stuff these guys in Japan are using, I'd never seen before, right? But a lot of the stuff the guys were using were either gut hand sponges, and they were using a lot of the Tamiya materials, right? And then Gunzi does make a series of polishing compounds, which they also sell at Hobby and Toy, I believe, right? So I haven't purchased them yet because the Tamiya ones work for me. So I can only buy so many of the same tool. So I may try it at some point, but this stuff works really good. I know there's a Novus plastic polishes you can get, but I find that I've got that as well. But the Tamiya compounds work better because I think the Novus stuff is designed for plastic, whatever there's a solvent in there or something. And this is designed for paint. So I think the Tamiya compounds I found, you get better results on paint with the Tamiya compounds than with the Nova polishes. If you're trying to polish a canopy or something for an aircraft, you may want to use the Nova stuff. But even still, the polishing compound I think will work because when I'm doing a car model, when I put the wax on at the end, I put it on the windshield and everything. And I think any little tiny micro scratches on the windshield, the wax will fill those micro scratches, and it just gives it such an amazing scale effect. It just gets super glossy, right? So the next aircraft I build, I'm going to try using the Tamiya mono wax on my aircraft canopy and see if it makes a difference. I suspect it will. I mean, I know people will dip them in future floor polish and stuff like that too for your canopies, and I've done that over the years, and it works really good as well. So this may avoid the dipping stage, and I can just polish my canopy on my aircraft, right? All right, I'll move on here. So this is just basically my technique when I'm applying the paint. You want to go real light coats at first. This is I can't see the top there. I got a thing in front of it. Applying primer, paint, and clear. Yeah, okay. So yeah, you want to do light coats first, even with your primer. And a double action airbrush, something that Larry Watson of the club. I saw him do an airbrushing seminar years ago down at Mavericks, I think it was. And with a double action airbrush, you can spray just air before you're spraying the paint. So you can go around the model, you can put a coat of primer on, and you can go around the model, you can blow it with the airbrush, and you can accelerate the flash time, right? It's not really drying or curing the paint, but it's flashing off the solvents. So you can very quickly put on a second coat of primer and maybe a third coat of primer if you think you need it, or paint, or even your clear coat, right? Although the clear coat's a little bit trickier. When you're doing the clear coat, you want to probably give it 10 or 15 minutes, like I say here, right? Between the coats of clear, which gives it more time to flash off, and the clear starts to maybe cure just slightly, and then you come back with your next coat of clear, and go that way. So, and then I always try to wait 24 hours. After I'm done doing my primer, I'll wait 24 hours, and then I'll come back and I'll polish the primer. I'll take like maybe just maybe the 4000 grit only, and I'll check my primer, and I'll just give it a quick, you only got to like rub each spot in the model like once, just to make sure any little rough spots are disappearing, right? And but with the sanding sponge, just to make, and there's any little dust particles or something sticking up, you want to just knock those down so you can't feel them anymore, right? And a big part of the polishing process, I think I say it in the next step here. Let me see if I do. Yeah, is did I talk about it in there? No, I don't. But anyways, when you're doing your sanding, your polishing of your primer, let's say, you're not really polishing, you're just taking off, like I said, the bumps and imperfections. And if you hold it up to the light and you get a reflection and you see a little bit of roughness, you can get that go down pretty quick. You got to be careful. You go under the 2000 grit sanding sponge, it'll go fast, and you can rub right through your primer, right? So you got to watch out you don't do that. Yeah, like you're barely, you're not like, you're just like gently, like rubbing it. I'm not even like going back and forth. Usually I'm just kind of going over spots on the model where I see imperfections, right? So, and you can hear it and you can feel it. I mean, you can feel the spot in your model and the texture, and you go over with the sanding sponge a little bit and you feel it again. Now it's smooth, right? So that's very much a tactile and even an audio thing, because you can almost hear it change, or you can feel the friction from the sanding sponge reduce in a spot. So you're polishing a little bit, and then it gets like really smooth. And so you can feel it and it feels smooth, and then you keep going like that. So it's very, very much a tactile thing more than it is looking at it, right? Although holding it up to the light and getting that reflection from the light, you see carpenters and craftsmen doing that kind of stuff, but it's a thing. When you're working on a model, you hold it up and look at it in the light, and you can see imperfections and stuff in your finish that you wouldn't see any other way looking at it, right? Without getting that reflection or that glare off of the surface of your model. So it doesn't take much to polish it, right? Your primer certainly, and then once you got your priming done, right? You do your quick polish, you do your paint, and depending on the paint, I'll come back again and I'll polish the paint gently. It doesn't matter now, this is for gloss finishes, but even on flat finishes on models, right? I'll come along and I'll polish that flat paint and get any imperfections out of there. Especially the smaller the aircraft, the more the imperfections show up, like the 72nd scale, right? So, and you get a nice smooth finish on your paint. And again, this is something that actually Larry Watson mentioned this one time, and I thought, oh, it makes a lot of sense. If you look at like Larry or Duncan's playing on the table, like some of these aircraft, and they got a really smooth scale finish on them. It's simply a matter of just polishing every time you put paint on that model, like you polish it a little bit, right? And then you might put your gloss on for the decals, even on an aircraft, and maybe you got to touch up that gloss a little bit before you put your decals on, right? And then for the gloss, you get to the gloss finish. It's for this Valky I did here, I did 4 to 6 coats of gloss on it. The last couple of coats are like what they call wet coats. The first couple are like, sort of light, almost dusted coats on there. And again, you give it like 10 or 15 minutes between coats and you come back and do another one. And all that. And so the paint's not cured, but it's flashed off a little bit. When you put those last couple of wet coats on, it sort of reactivates all the paint a little bit and it'll get really shiny. And you got to be careful because you can overdo it like very quickly and you start getting paint runs on the model, right? So, but even when you're doing the gloss, you can put a coat of gloss on, you can go around with the airbrush and blow it a little bit. Then you can wait like 10 minutes and then come back and you can put your next coat on. And then once, like when I'm doing like something like, let's say the Falke or a car, I'll do my gloss coats like that. And then I'll leave it overnight and I'll come back and I won't do any polishing usually. I'll put the decals on if the paint's glossy enough, right? And then I'll wait till the next day and then I'll come back and I'll put on my next 4 to 6 coats of clear over top of the decals. So now the decals are sandwiched in clear and you've sort of buried them under the clear coat, right? And then once you put that next clear coat on, I just put it in a bin and I forget about it for like a week, right? And I just put it up on a shelf somewhere and I give it a week for the paint to cure because you want all the solvents to evaporate out of the paint and you want the paint to actually cure a little bit. And you'll notice too, as the paint cures, like with most of the lacquers anyways, I find as the paint cures, it shrinks a little bit and it'll get a little bit smoother on the model and give you a real nice finish. But then you come back and there'll always be some kind of imperfections you want to fix. And for me, it's the polishing stages, right? Where you go through the sanding sponges and the compounds, and then you apply the modeling wax over top of it. And it's a long process. It's a lot of time. I'll just be sitting and listening, half listening to, YouTube videos or whatever, or, you guys were talking about Zoom meetings that happen all the time. So there's our Zoom meeting on Wednesday nights. It usually knocks off around 9. I'll go from our Zoom meeting and I'll hop on with the TAPS guys down in Toronto. They're one of the model car club guys down in Toronto mostly. And I'll hop on with those guys for a couple hours and chat with them. And then they have a meeting on Saturday night. And then the Colorado modelers, they have a Sunday afternoon Zoom meeting, or it's at 3 o'clock our time, which is 1 o'clock their time. And I'll hop on there for a few hours, hang out with those guys. So during the Zoom meetings, it's a great time to be talking to guys and just polishing the paint on your model, right? Doing while polishing your finish, that kind of thing. So it works out pretty good. And my last slide here. Yeah, so this is getting on to the amount of pressure. Don't overdo it, right? So it's just light polishing passes, go by feel and sound. And you just want to get rid of the high points and you don't want to, polish through burn through it, right? And you want that final clear to be on there thick enough that you can really work through like 3 or 4 levels of sanding sponges without burning through your clear coat. Because once you get through your clear coat, you got to just stop and go back and re-clear at least that area, if not the whole model, and start over again, right? Because there's no way. Once you get through the clear coat is a lot tougher than the paint finish usually, so you can't polish the paint up as nice as you can polish the clear. So if you get through the clear coat, you just got to shrug and take a step back and put more clear on. So that's the trick for sure. And perfect is the enemy of finish. So this is the general modeling rule for me and a rule in life. Perfect doesn't really exist. So every good piece of art is just eventually abandoned. So at some point you got to stop working on it, put it on the shelf and be happy and, take lessons learned and move on to the next model sort of thing. So yeah, I guess that's about it really. So, yep.
Person replicating how substance itself
Yeah, I would say so. I would say the primer stage is the same, but a lot of metallics, you can't polish the metallics. So you got to make sure you got a real nice primer and then put the metallics on there. Some metallics are fairly glossy, so you can get away with glossing them, but like the engine and stuff on here, this is just your metallic paints, and I did no polishing on that at all. Right, and the same with the metallics that are on here. And a lot of metallic paints too. I mean, you guys will know, will have like really nice finishes, and the idea is you can't gloss over some of them. Now, some people make, I think Alclad makes that, is it aqua clear, which is supposed to work really well over metallics. It will, eh? Yeah, so, I mean, there's, metallics are really tricky. There's lots of nice metallics out. I've got the Gunsy, and Mr. Color has, they got like a super silver, I think it's number 80 is paint code, or number 79. And I've got a case of that stuff. And you can put that on and then you can gloss over that. And it doesn't really change how it looks. And it gives you a really nice silver. I did a 1950s. I did a Destination Moon rocket ship Luna in that. And it turned out really nice. And I was able to gloss that whole model and not worry about the problems like that. Because decals are tricky on metallic finishes too, right? Because you know, the carrier film shows up and you can do all kinds of stuff. You can either paint your markings on, or you can like just try and cut away all the carrier film from your decals as best you can. But when it comes to stenciling and stuff, it gets tricky, right? Because you got to have, you know, something to hold the letters together unless you want to apply them one at a time, and that's a lot of cutting out to cut all the carrier film away from like USAF stencil or something like that, right? So it does vary. It does vary for sure. Even with like a flat finish, I may not do quite as much polishing as I would on this, of course, right? And then your final flat coat, once you put your over the decals, you're not going to come in and polish that probably, right? Because it'll change the reflectance of it. You'll get like weird marks and stuff on it, right? It might be a problem. So yeah. I like the Tamiya lacquer, the LP9 lacquer. Um, yeah. If I go back preview. Yeah. So I'm a little bit of a paint hoarder. So like every time I go to Hobby and Toy Central, I'll just buy 2 jars of LP9, right? Because I find that like this Falke probably has at least one full jar, if not a jar and a half, of LP9 lacquer on it, right? 70%. Yeah. Yeah. So I would say there's maybe only a jar, but yeah, there's a lot of paint on there, right? And you thin it right down. And like I said, there's like 6 coats decals and then like 6 coats more, right? And my cars are the same way. So it gives that really shiny candy-like finish. But it's a lot of time to get it that shiny. And that's really what it comes down to is time. It's like the whole hobby. This hobby is about patience, right? If you're worried about making, like, let's say you're worried about making show-winning models, you just got to put the time in, right? And if you're not winning awards, and you want to win awards, it means you're not spending enough time, right? Because you got to be able to look at the flaws. And one of the things is, some of you guys know my buddy Shane, right? So he can go into harsh critic mode, and if you can take it, then he'll tell you things about your model that you're maybe not seeing that are there, and it helps. If you want to get better at modeling, then get a friend or somebody to come in and critique your model, and turn your ego off and listen to it, and it'll make the hobby better for you. But the problem is some people can't turn their egos off, and it upsets them, right? But you got to be prepared for that. So, I mean, it'll help. It can help you be a better modeler if that's what you want. If you just want to build models and have fun and have things in the shelf, then everybody builds models for different reasons, I think, right? Some people are hunting trophies and some people are just having fun and wanting to make art, right? So, yeah.
For those of you who, Mr. Color and the God Hand sponges are good friends at Neo Tokyo. I carry them and they also give us a 10% discount card.
Yeah.
And I believe, Peter, didn't you say something about the whole bunch of some of the metallic colors are in now, and got a whole bunch of metal colors. I think I saw an Aqueous primer too. Yeah. Yeah, I want to try that. But you've also got a lot of the other color product palettes, super metallic stuff out of firefighter.
And-
Good question. So do try, Rob, we're always been a good supporter of.
Yep.
And doing amazing things.
Really popular.
Nice.
Well, Peter's been taking so much time off on weekends, but I think Rob, they, handcuffed him to the table with all the kids.
Yeah, it was really good. They off 5 bucks. Pulled out.
Yeah, no, we're gonna have an area there for that. Ella and they also got a lot of during the backdrop. Like that. They got a lot of all three kits there.
Something I forgot to mention is the Tamiya polishing compounds. They have these really soft cotton polishing cloths, and the cloths are color coded to the caps of the jars for each grit. So there's like a white cloth for the white one and the blue, and there's a pink in here for the pink lid. And then the wax comes with a cotton cloth, and the cotton cloth is like super soft. So, well, you can see I got little, my daughter growing up, I have all these little kids' toothbrushes that I saved, right? So one of the tricks when you're doing the compounds is make sure between compound stages, you clean all the little crumbs of compound off the model, out of the panel lines, out of all that stuff. Because if one of those comes loose and you're on the finishing one and a piece of the course pops out of somewhere, you start rubbing the model, you'll see it and it'll make like a blemish. You have to go back and go back through the stages again to get rid of that mark you left on the model. The polishing is a little more vigorous, I would say. Yeah. So you're giving it a little bit of pressure when you're doing that, but still it goes very quick, right? So I probably spend on something like the Falke here, I probably spent maybe a little over an hour per compound. So it wasn't too bad. I spent more time with the sanding with the sanding sponges, but I spent maybe an hour and a half per compound, right? Until I was happy with what was going on. Because you want to get in some of the little nooks and crannies and stuff, right? And I've cut these cloths in little bits, so I'll wrap it around the handle of a paintbrush or something and get it in a little corner, right? And get in there and give it a little bit of a polish. So yeah.
Another tip is trying to do it. Something I've really started to do. Have a paint mule.
Oh yeah, paint mules are test.
And that way,
Test.
especially if you're trying to complete, ideally try and get something to cruise or get something similar. Primer, just stay a step ahead on your. I found that's really made like I was saying, I'm gonna be working on the firefighter. I'm going to palette some of their clear coat. I want to light purple into the solar panels on the firefighter. So I'm going to try all that on paint mule first. I have great.
The problem is I tried something new. I think, hey, that really worked, but it had several problems. Then when I'm ready to finish, what did I start?
Make notes.
Yeah.
Make note. I you know what I do? Make notes. Especially, I'm mostly an acrylic guy, but I've been playing around a little bit with the lacquers a bit. Like I said, these new with the color, they've got like a clear, like a foam purple shade or something. It's like a clear coat, but it's purple.
Looks like a candy coat.
Yeah,
Like a candy
it's a little
clear or
bit. They have a
something.
bunch of colors.
Yeah.
Because they didn't have metallic purple. So, you do this stuff like that. And that's what I do. I literally, I have a couple of models now. And the big thing I do is I say, okay, I tend to use one type of primer. So I'll prime it. I'll try a coat of something new on it. Let it sit, play around with the weathering. I don't go for contests, but at the same time, I'm trying to learn a new technique.
Yep.
Yeah. And like a lot of pictures I take right now, I think I've got to have one born tonight. 77. Well, it's one of the old air.
I've got a 72nd scale P47 I got from one of the members in this club like 15 years ago. I forget his name, but he's no longer with us. He had a box of like half-built stuff. And I took that. So this Acreno plan that I did, this underside blue is like a specific FS number, right? And the only two companies that make it were the Model Master Enamels, and then there's one of the new AK lacquers, I think. Well, the AK lacquers I can't get locally. And so I got my box of old Model Master paints is actually, I got a pizza box full of the jars. So I had to dig in the closet, they're not even out anymore. They started digging through the box, and sure enough, I had one jar of that stuff left. So I thinned it with Mr. Color leveling thinner, and I sprayed it on the paint mule just to see what would happen. And I left it for like a few days. And then 2 days later, I came back and the paint had cured hard as a rock, and it hadn't done anything like strange, right? So I'm like, oh, good, I can use it. So I was able to use. I was going to just find something close and just like fake it, right? But or mix it custom. But I was able to use the actual FS number. But that's so the blue was Model Master enamels thin with Mr. Color leveling thinner, and it worked just fine. So, oh yeah, I meant to pass this around the room. Sorry, guys. So this is a paint sample. It's funny you hold this up now. I used some really hard pieces, glue the plastic, acrylic, and it's starting to work. You can see it with the reflection. But I'll pass this around the room. It just shows different steps from primer. And so if you feel the primer, you can feel like polished, unpolished, and all that stuff, right? You'll get a good look at it. You get a feel for it too.
I'll have this in the show notes. The other thing, I don't know if everyone's aware, but Mia's lacquer line, unlike their acrylic line, the lacquer paste match spray.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
the longest time you couldn't get a true Ferrari red, okay, in the acrylic line. But if they have it in the bottle of the lacquer and it matches.
Yep. And for red, I did a little tiny Jedi Starfighter. And was that you sharing that one? Okay, yeah. Yeah, I've got a little tiny Jedi Starfighter that I did. I did these gun towers for where did it go here? There it is. Finish? Gun towers.
Oh, we're waiting. Anything else new at Hobby and Toy?
Go back.
There are films.
Yeah. So this is the tiny 1:144 scale Jedi Starfighter. And I primed it in pink, and then I put Ferrari red on top. And I'll tell you, it turned out real nice. I think it turned out really nice. I was happy with that. And that's my TIE fighter in British Racing Green. And the Golf A-Wing. This was part of a group build I did for Wonderfest. The guy, Jason Eaton, he had these gun towers. So he had a bunch of people do a group build on them. All right. This was my pirate gun tower. I did it all in wood grain. And then there was these, of course, golf racing. I had to throw that in there. And that was the thing. I had this here, didn't I, once? So yeah. So anyways.
Again.
Take care, Mike.
I did find what
Yeah. Hope somebody learned something.
yeah, I did, because I don't lost it. Thanks, Dave, for that. Ben, if you're airbrushing it, great matte. Then well ventilated room and matte, right?
Yeah. Sure.
Or you end up, you know.
You end up like me. You end up wearing tie-dyed shirts and talking to guys after only sleeping for 3 hours.
Clear color, and then that's all the Valkyrie kids. Oh, no, they got a lot of that. No armor, no armor. No, I know, I'm getting my son into this. A game chamber, you get into that. You guys are looking for half a day. $20 a pop, and
Did I get those from you?
Yeah.
It was somebody, I couldn't remember who it was. Still using that? Yeah, I used to play.
Do you need more hands?
Probably not. Or have more.
Anyway, yeah, I've given for you for $20 a pop, from company for the cheap.
Do you want to be repaid for that, or you want us?
I'll bring in any. Steve's got some, those on.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else want one in the future, let me know and I'll
So talking to some of the car guys, a lot of them are actually going all the way to 12,000 on their sanding. And so that's a few more steps maybe than you're going flat, but
Yeah,
I can't imagine that your finish is, doesn't compare to their finish. It just seems
Yeah.
like the work.